The reality is that truth is sometimes stranger than fiction. These AI robots have faces, they have names, they walk, they jump, and they even dance. When there's a face attached to innovation, that's a dangerous road for us to take. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the What's the Word podcast. My name is Roddy Martinez and I am your host here at What's the Word. If you like what you hear today, please consider clicking the like and subscribe buttons. We upload podcast episodes and YouTube videos every Tuesday, so make sure to click on that little bell icon so that way you don't miss a word. Also, please consider sharing this episode with your friends and family. Who knows, maybe it'll be a blessing to someone you know. And without further ado, let's get into the Word. All right, we're back with the What's the Word podcast. I wasn't here last week for an upload because I decided to spend some very important time with family. And there were also several birthday celebrations that I attended, one of them being my 83-year-old grandmother. I'm so thankful to God that she's still here with us and has lived another year of life. On another note, this past week also, me and my daughter got very sick. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but I might have to edit this video a little bit. I don't know how often I'll have to take a break. I had to take a day off of work this past week at the end of the week, and I'm still not feeling very good, but I was not gonna allow myself to miss 2 weeks to upload. So I am here and I'm ready to go. And today's episode is definitely gonna be a little bit different. Because I was sick and had less time, I wanted to cover something more in tune with the culture today and also give you my thoughts on it. So here we go. A few weeks ago, I did a podcast episode where I covered Beyonce's newest album, Renaissance. And I spent most of the video talking about a specific song titled Church Girl. And it's interesting because that video has considerably more views and more comments when compared to my other podcast episodes. Some of the videos that I get really excited about, those videos where I tell myself like, man, I'm so happy with the way this video is coming out, or the Holy Spirit is really using me here and I think this message is really going to speak to people. Those videos sometimes don't get as many views, but then I do a video on Beyonce and everybody wants to tune in. It's kind of funny. Anyway. Now, of course, my channel is still relatively small. It's a relatively small YouTube channel. So a lot of views to me is not very many. But my point is that more people were attracted to the topic of Beyonce and had much stronger opinions when it came to her music. I definitely had some critics who disagreed with me on things that I said, and that's fine. I don't take that offensively. If you disagree with me, that's totally fine with me. And there was one particular thing that I said, which I feel sort of triggered some Beyonce fans, which was this. And this is the case with Beyonce. Most people don't like Beyonce's music per se. It's more of Beyonce herself that people are in love with. Now, of course, I was speaking hyperbolically here. I didn't think that needed to be clarified, but some people got their feelings hurt when I said that. So clearly, there are people out there who genuinely like Beyonce's music. But the point I was trying to make is that when listening to music, people are generally attracted to more than just the sounds of music. There is more to music than just audio waves, okay? There has to be something deeper to that music that connects people to that art. It's this deeper element that makes music art. And in the case of today's music, one of the deeper things that connects people to music is the person who is performing the music. So I stand by what I said. Most people don't just like music alone, and I don't have to know most people to know that. It's not just about the sound waves for a lot of people. It's also the person who is performing the music and also the activities that are associated with that music that draws people into that form of art. And the broader point to take away from this is that we should surround ourselves with good musical art, which is grounded in meaning and purpose and is centered on God and the works of the Lord, so that way we can connect with good and fruitful human expression through the use of music instead of catering to our fleshly desires through garbage music. Now, I say all of that to segue into this week's episode because I feel that today's topic is actually going to help validate some of the things that I said in the Beyonce video, and will also point to some of the things that we need to be careful of as Christians. So recently there were two guys named Anthony Martini and Brandon Lee, who created an AI robot. Now, this isn't just any AI robot. They created the first AI rapper named FN Meka. That's right. These two guys who work for a VR company called Factory New created an artificial intelligence robot who can rap. I can describe it in more detail for you, but I feel it might just be better if you saw the footage for yourself. So here it is. So first of all, I gotta say, these AI robots are really getting into the uncanny valley territory. That robot looks really creepy. And it's crazy that it can dance too. But anyway, this AI robot is allegedly capable of producing its own lyrics and was clearly designed to represent hip-hop black culture. Well, this AI robot actually got signed onto a record label, which was going to produce an album for it, which is crazy, by the way, that a record label was actually willing to sign a robot to create an album for it. The fact that the record labels are willing to sign robots is very interesting to see the path that we may be headed in the future. And before we continue, I just want to say that I have indeed dabbed a little bit into rap myself. Christian music, of course. And just so you know that I'm speaking about this topic with some experience. Here's a listen to one of my songs. It was never mixed. It's just a raw recording of me rapping. Here it is. It's great. It's beautiful. Now, I didn't say it was the best. However, I may be a bit biased here, but I do think that my song was better than FN Meka. I'm just saying. Well, it should come as no surprise to anyone that people became very upset with this AI robot, saying that it appropriated black hip-hop culture. It was apparently using some N-words in its lyrics, which I made sure to cut out from that clip that I played earlier. So people are upset and offended that this record label thought that they could just use an AI robot to perform rap music and that it would be a popular thing, but it's not. And one of the reasons it's not is because, just like I said in the Beyonce video, people today associate music with the performer and not just the music itself. You know, when I heard about this story, I thought to myself, man, we've come a long way from the days of King David, who poured out his heart into writing the Psalms about God and his mighty works. Now we've got robots writing the music for us. I have a lot of thoughts about this AI rapper and just artificial intelligence as a whole. And I think that these things do represent different issues or present different issues that our society is struggling a lot with today. I'm not against the use of technology. I mean, I'm using technology right now as we speak. I have a laptop here for my notes, I have a camera recording me, got a microphone right here, and use the internet and other software to create these YouTube videos. So it's not the use of technology that I feel is an issue. Instead, it's the deification of technology that I feel is a problem. In other words, we're getting to a point where we are elevating technology and science so much to a point where if we're not careful, technology will become our new God. And this is especially the case with AI, I think, because these new AI robots, they're not just, Siri's voice answering questions for you. These AI robots have faces, they have names, they walk, they jump, and they even dance, like you saw in that video earlier. When there's a face attached to innovation, that's a dangerous road for us to take, because it makes it much easier for us to begin worshiping these new machines now that we have an image attached to the practice. So let's take a look at what Scripture has to say a little bit about this. And to do that, we're going to visit one of the most well-known parts of the Bible, the Ten Commandments. Now, I know that as Christians, we're not bound by the Ten Commandments. Just bear with me for a little bit. More specifically, let's look at the second commandment found in Exodus chapter 20, verses 3 through 5. So starting on verse 3 there, it says, "You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. Now, although we're New Testament Christians and we're technically no longer bound by the Old Testament law, this particular commandment is also found and expressed in other places in the New Testament, like 1 John chapter 5:21, for example, which reads, "Little children, keep yourselves from idols." Nonetheless, the reason I read from Exodus is specifically because of the word image that's used there. You shall not make for yourself an image. The Hebrew word used here is temunah and means likeness or form. And so the word temunah here suggests that the Israelites were instructed not to create any image that would be treated in the likeness of God or for worship. And I point to this because today we see an attempt by many of our elite corporate record companies and scientists and all of that sort of thing to revert back to the ways of the Old Testament by creating an image to be used for worship and idolization. Professing themselves to be wise, they instead have become fools. It is very telling that this record company called Capitol Records actually signed this AI rapper to a record label. This isn't science fiction here. This is real. Capitol Records signed an AI robot in the hopes that people would pay money for its music and probably also pay to see it perform, I would assume, on a stage. Now, to be clear, I did say earlier that these people only attempted to do this because ultimately their plan with the AI robot backfired big time. People were upset and Capitol Records dropped the robot from their deal, of course. But let's not sugarcoat it either. This robot, FN Meka, has over 10 million people following it on TikTok and thousands of others on other platforms. 10 million people on TikTok. So it's not like everybody wants the robot gone. There are millions of people out there who are interested in this and where it's going. The reality is that truth is sometimes stranger than fiction. It's a bizarre thing to think about, but we may be witnessing the beginning stages of a time where people look to AI technology for entertaining value, which will inevitably lead to idolization. Okay. It may not have worked this time, but the fact that a record label was willing to financially invest in this AI robot shows that this may not be the last time we see something like this. And the other thing I want to say about this AI rapper is an AI robot will never be able to produce art. Okay. A robot is incapable of producing art. And that's why I think that it's silly if anybody refers to the robot as an artist. It's not an artist. And I think this is the major mistake that Capitol Records made, and also has to do with the point I was making with Beyonce. Art is an expression of the soul. Art can be a very good thing. In fact, a couple of chapters later in Exodus 25 and 26, we see that God actually commands the Israelites to carve beautiful images of cherubim angels on the tabernacle. And we can assume that they had to use their imagination when carving images of angels, because according to my knowledge, they hadn't really been aware of what a cherubim specifically looked like up until that point. We also see throughout the Psalms where King David writes beautiful lyrics to praise and worship God. Many of those Psalms we still read today in prayer, and also write songs about deriving from that text. So art can be a beautiful and good thing that's used for godly and fruitful purposes. But art is only art if it is predicated on the expression of the soul. And that is why an artificial intelligence will never be able to create art, because it lacks a soul. It has no spirit. And I'm sorry to repeat myself again, but as I said in Beyonce's video, some of the ways that people connect with music through the person making the music and the activities done while hearing it. One of my favorite songs is I Shall See by Michael John Trotta. He's a choral composer. It's a choral composition, and that text is based from Psalm 27. I love the song, not just because it sounds nice, and it does sound nice. Michael Trotta is a wonderful composer, but also because of the person who wrote the text, and in this case, King David, who was a man after God's own heart. And when I read the text in I shall see, which is from Psalm 27, teach me your way, lead me in a straight path, I can connect with the desire of wanting to be led by God toward righteous living and seeing him as a divine teacher who can teach me his ways. That is good art. It's beautiful and it's fruitful, it's meaningful. And yes, even secular music too can also produce good art if it's an expression of the soul. Good art helps us connect with those who create it as well. Now, this brings me to the main issue with the AI rapper, which is that the AI rapper took away the opportunity for the listener to connect with an actual person. When people find out that this rapper is just a robot, it's insulting. And yeah, you can say, well, the music's not great, so that's why it wasn't attractive. But people are upset because this is a robot who is making music that a person can make. There's people out there making music that could be signed to a record label, but instead they signed a robot. And so that comes across as insulting because that is a very, very important component to making art. Whether it's bad art or good art, it requires a person to be making it in order for it to be art. And this will always be, in my opinion, where AI and sometimes even technology itself fails. Now, that doesn't mean that AI musicians won't become popular in the future. There could be a time when we become so obsessed with our own innovation that the person we end up connecting with in AI music isn't necessarily the robot, but instead we may be attracted with ourselves and our own vanity when we see that robot, because that's what the robot would symbolize. That is possible. So my point is, we can't lose the human element in music and in expression, and we certainly can't abandon the humanity that God blessed us in favor of something like an AI robot. Now I'm going to go ahead and close with this. In Genesis chapter 3, verse 5, the serpent speaks one of the most tempting lines ever spoken in our entire history, which is this: ye shall be as gods. This was the tempting statement that really attracted Adam and Eve to sin. And in my view, it is more tempting today than probably ever before, because we have advanced so far in our innovation, in our scientific innovation, that we now are not only creating artificial intelligence, but also adding faces and body movement to that intelligence. So it's easy for people to think, oh, we're so close. Look, we've created intelligence. We're almost there. We're almost like God himself. That thing can move, it can sing, it can dance. But don't be fooled. There's only one God. And no matter how smart we become, we will never be capable of creating a soul on our own. It is God who breathed the breath of life into Adam, and it is God who has given us all that we have and all that we are capable of. So don't be fooled by these AI robots, okay? They aren't artists, they aren't people, and as impressive as they are nothing compared to what you look at in the mirror every single day, because even though we're all sinners, we are still children of God, made in his image and made for his purpose. Amen. Hi everyone, I hope that word was a blessing for you today, and if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this podcast and our YouTube channel so that way you don't miss a word. Also, please consider sharing this episode with someone you know, and maybe even like this episode and leave a comment. I'd love to know your thoughts. Anyway, God bless you all, and I hope you have a wonderful week.